The recording's going. I'm just gonna share my screen. We got designer size pulled up. So this is what we were using to just kind of like roll for ideas. And so let's just roll through a couple and see like where we can start, with Convex Chef. Might even just give it a screenshot. Let's see. So a dashboard for a pet care app to help sales team trainers. That's a little boring.
Can you copy and paste that or no?
Get after it. I think you could just screenshot it too.
I'll copy it to my clipboard history. Then, all right, let's reload another one.
Give it a few options.
Yeah, I'm gonna see a modal confirmation component, an insult generator. That might be a little too dorky. That doesn't feel fun. Well,
I made a custom GPT one time that would take an image and rank on you.
just like the roast machine.
Yeah, man, and it's pretty cool
That's funny.
because I
All
had to
right,
get
an
my rating.
edit settings form a professional networking site for sports fans. Okay,
We
maybe
just
I'll go
not
to
do-
one of the hard.
Yeah,
What's
do a
that?
hard. I was about to say we need more of a full app if we're going to do a chef or a replit. Yeah.
Okay, an AR powered interior paint color browser.
Now we're
Accountants.
getting this is a much better one for replit. Yeah, but let's keep going.
A single detail view, a weather app for high school students. See, I feel like you could one shot this with like Replit.
Why do high school students need their own weather app? It's the safe weather as everybody else.
Different clothes.
But if it's raining today, I might not want to go, and I'm going to play sick.
See now you're thinking. Now it's like
I kind of like this one. Okay. All right. That was like some pretty good ideas. Maybe we just run with it. Because I think this is a concise enough and complete enough idea that if we ask the AI to expand on it, like kind of like you were saying, Bobby, earlier, of like treat it like a teammate, maybe we'll just ask it to define this or shape this even more, with some of our ideas. Does that make
don't forget.
sense?
Yeah, but don't forget aim for wow. That needs to be copied into the AI as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Nailed it. Okay. So I'm going to come over to
You're cooking.
Combat Shift, right? Yeah. What's with all of these like,
They're cooking. They're the chef.
Dude,
okay. So we can generate and launch real time full stack apps you never thought possible.
I would love to see what else he generated for that title. Because like he generated like 10 different options and was like, now you're cooking is the funniest one.
Okay. So what does the auto do? Does that expand the prompt or does it
I've never used it.
enhance my prompt? I'm going to go ahead and hit it.
See, good thing we have aim for wow in there. Otherwise it wouldn't know what to aim for.
All right. Design a striking single detail weather view tailored for high school students.
What would we do without that AI? Like, how would we ever know the definition of the hex code for white?
Yeah.
We would never have figured that out on our own. But this is interesting, actually, because like Replit doesn't have this feature. So like, it's clearly the first thing that it does when it runs.
Yeah, for sure. They're always doing prompt expansion. But I would be way more like specific, right? Like we threw out some ideas, right? Like high schoolers have different clothing styles. And then Bobby, you said like if it were to rain.
Yeah, they might play hooky or whatever. That'll probably give it enough to work with.
And I'll say like different pain points or need.
I was kind of interested to see how it interpreted it if we didn't put that.
So we don't want it to expand further. Maybe we just.
I would copy that and then just see what else it does. Yeah, because this is very literal, is what you're saying.
Yeah, right. I want it to take that creative liberty. No,
I would take away a bunch of that prompt from everything underneath video games, because to give more of a prompt is to lobotomize further.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Like that's not necessary.
Yeah, I find that I'm either doing a prompt with details or I'm doing like an aspirational prompt. And the more I combine those, the more that it gets confused. If I'm like, hey, I want this to be really cool, and can you make this very specifically this shade of blue? It might do one of those things, maybe.
So yeah, maybe not even be specific about wind speed, right? Like we want it to be creative.
Yep.
Yeah, so to be clear, their prompt.
Yeah, awful. I would grade that like a 4 out of 10.
Well, something I would
V
say,
zeros was always very, very good. I
something
really
I would say too, though, is like the prompt expander does give you a little insight into how the app itself under the hood probably performs, right? Because at this point, we're basically just going to be guessing what are the system prompts that are attached to this,
The
telling it
only
to do.
problem I would see is that sometimes that prompt expander would like lobotomize the AI.
Yeah.
But then now that we've cleaned it up, we have to worry about and don't know if they're still expanding the prompt behind the scene.
Right, right. Yeah, there's no I mean, I would assume they are. You know, it's almost assuredly.
But maybe not because they offered you the ability.
I hope so, right?
Well,
I
that's
really
really kind of
do.
the question, is that like there's never going to be, I mean, there's not a clear way to like differentiate if they are giving you the end control or not. Because even like people that, a lot of people that
They're,
give the end control are giving you like end control within their box, right?
and I'm hoping they don't expand on your prompt behind the scenes because some of us, and this is a tool for developers. And so you want the open box because I know the LLM smarter than I give it credit for. You know what I mean? And so,
Right. Well, but it's also like I'm trying to hold a bunch of shit in my head, and you can't just like have something in a black box that I don't understand that's directly influencing it, especially when the whole fucking thing's a black box already.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I also injected here that I want them to be creative in the application of these ideas. We see you as someone on our team who can generate concepts, and you should think step by step. I don't know, in your execution. And that kind of gets to what Bobby was suggesting, right? Where like we want to let it know that it's like a part of our team. Let's like, what's the importance of that? And then I'm just gonna send this and see where we
I
go.
don't think it's
But
that.
why?
I just think that I was giving you a challenge similar to you were giving us as human beings if we were to have done this, making it aware of all the context. Because I've found that when we do LLM stuff in our apps, it's kind of good to like say there's a nuance where we need to be Socratic, but it's hard to be Socratic with LLMs. And so I actually tell it the problem of why this is a problem and the kind of role it needs to play because of the problem that exists. And then it has so much context that it wants to help you play the role because it understands your limitations. And so
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to lock you in. I just want to open your mind up and then give you the freedom.
I found the same thing because, like, when I first started using these, and sometimes even now, I'll be like, I really want to get this specific thing done. And it's like still not very good at that. But if you give it a lot of context and you kind of say, okay, I want you to do this, but it's not working. I'm not sure why. Here's this file's happening. This is the terminal session with the error. You can like tag a bunch of context, and then it sees that you're confused and it tries to find the answer as opposed to trying to implement what you told it to do, which
Yeah, I
is
see
like, it's
nuances.
gotten a lot better at that very, very, very recently as well.
Here we are, guys. We've got our weather vibes.
All right, sign in anonymously.
I have so many questions about the tagline.
And also, what I find is interesting as you guys were talking, I took a brief glance at the responses, and I like that it chose mobile first. And like, I don't know if I'm giving the AI too much credit, but since we said high school students, it choosing mobile first is like kind of interesting. And then, it added the weather data, gave us a UI, which is, I don't know, almost like too, maybe it's just me, but I'm
I
like,
don't
is
know.
this really what high schoolers?
Yeah, I'm getting the
uh,
vibe that like if you asked me, or like I would say my dad, but I think at this point it's me too. Like what a high schooler would like. This is what I was thinking. Like it chose the color scheme. The fact that it has anonymous sign in is definitely chosen because of high schoolers.
that's a
The
good
color
point.
scheme, the rainbow on the front page, like all these icons, because they talk in emojis a lot, is like what I would think as a observer. Obviously, there's so much nuance in that I think a high schooler would look at this and think it was a joke. Like it's
Right.
almost like a satire of what a high schooler would want.
So is this made for us to surge?
Yeah, what does it do? I hadn't even thought about that part.
It looks like it's all just sort of
Hard coded?
hard coded example data right now. I
Check your
doubt, is it actually 72 degrees in New York right now?
Probably not, but check your database tab to make sure we can see if there's data in there that we don't know about. And so of counts, yes, because you signed in anonymously. There's weather data table at the bottom. There's nothing good.
It's all front end. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
why don't you tell it to build out use publicly available data sources to build out a weather integration based on my location.
I wonder if I can super whisper that. Use publicly available data to return the weather based on somebody's location. And also, let's implement an OpenAI call that uses an LLM to generate the responses and suggestions for the high schoolers based on the weather data.
Intelligent app.
You're gonna need to hook up some keys.
Yeah.
Okay.
This I would say like hit this and then let's see if it. I'm always interested in how they decide to handle the keys, and it usually tells you.
Right. Replets is amazing because it just gives you form fields to add the
I
keys
wouldn't
in.
so much say that any of them are amazing as much as like if I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna set up the keys the way I always do it. It never finds. Sometimes it doesn't find them in these things if you don't
There's
do
a
it.
free National Weather Service API.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, when I searched for weather in my other little crazy app we did, I went and got one that had to give me a trial. They wasn't free.
Yeah, there's a lot of paid services, but the data is all technically free, and those paid services are usually just aggregating them.
Right. They're just wrappers.
You got 4.1 Nano as your model. I saw it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even catch that.
So why?
Did anybody have an iPod Nano? Do you remember those days?
A lot of times, Bobby, like things like Replit now are defaulting to the cheapest model, knowing that, when people are trying to vibe code this stuff, they're, unless they're like specific, they're going to default to the cheapest one so you don't run your bill up,
4.1 Nano, one of the cheapest?
Yeah. It's comparative to what is it, 04 Mini, and some of those other price points on the mini models.
So what is, I don't get 4.1 Nano. I haven't even checked into it. So I guess it takes in a bigger context, but it's not as smart.
Yeah, and it's, I think, designed for very specific tasks. I'm pulling it up.
Well, I mean, 4.1 takes in a lot of context, and a Nano, I would just assume that it's just not as smart.
Yeah, I think it's less output tokens. So it's still the same million token context window, but I believe it's a smaller output. They say fastest, most cost effective. So that's really probably the reason.
Well, that's pretty good that Chef is up to date with the newer models in its memory.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And like everybody, I think, I'm sure Claude is actually probably the default, but I was just explicit about using OpenAI. I probably should have just asked it to implement one to see be interested in what like bias it has.
You know what's strange? As when I use Claude and I ask it to help me build an AI app, it usually just tries the OpenAI route. And I guess maybe because so many examples exist, but it's a strange thing, right? That it wouldn't be suggesting its own self mostly.
I don't know why that made me just think about like the monopolies that these companies are going to have.
Hold on, it
Like if
doesn't
you're,
suggest itself. That's crazy.
No,
That's like
yeah,
I feel like
right.
that's way crazier than you.
I've had it suggest itself, but I've had it suggest OpenAI just by asking for an AI app more times than it's used itself. I've only had it suggest itself once or twice, and that's because I wanted to use it.
But do you think, is that potentially because in your conversation history, since we use OpenAI primarily in our projects, that it's just kind of starting to get confirmation bias?
That was my initial thought as well.
I don't talk about our projects mostly in Claude. That's like usually my like personal crap. But I
Right,
have
because you're using Cursor. So it's like, why even go out to Claude if you're already in the environment?
well also our app is like, for educational purposes, and I feel like OpenAI is a better context. It's a better thing to use with that kind of context because I feel like it's got worldly knowledge in a different way, and I only use, and I might be biased and I might be wrong, but I only use Claude really for coding. Because
I feel the same way. Yeah, I feel like ChatGPT is like a way more interesting person as
yeah,
opposed to like the best coder I've ever met.
well, and it can research with O3 in ways that are like helpful and very detailed. So like if I need information type of LLM, I go there, and if I want coding LLM, it's either Cursor or Claude.
Something I just wanted to mention, I'm sharing this because it's public information. Like AI for Education did kind of an early benchmarking of AI in the education space recently. That's pretty sweet. Like And what's surprising to me about this is that you guys are talking about like Claude and Anthropics are seemingly better for coding, right? And Claude 4 is now just like made a leap in the benchmarks, but nobody's like really benchmarking the LLMs for education. Like it's hard to find that kind of metric of like Claude does this well in education context compared to OpenAI. So I thought this is an interesting read on how they see AI showing up right now in education,
Well,
but nobody's measuring the LLMs, or
but
I
based on
haven't found it.
our work, right? Our work for over the last year and a half, 2 years with actual education companies, finding and reading that sort of data that they provide to us, and then being able to find stuff like that through ChatGPT. That's the reason I'm like, ChatGPT kind of just has information. It's like if it were Google as an, and to Claude probably has that too, but they were there so long that I've used them and gotten so familiar with them. I just trust them more with like, knowledge. I don't really trust them
Interesting.
with coding patterns because they fail a lot more to me. I never use OpenAI inside of Cursor ever.
Ever. Yeah, me neither. Well, the way I've been thinking about it is like, I don't know, it maps a lot to how the two companies talk about their models a lot. And so I think it's a lot of just like what they're aiming for. Like Anthropic very much is trying to be like that enterprise company and try to like fill that role in the market of like, we're going to be the ones that's used for coding. And they're like, their CEO comes out and talks about it's the best coding model on earth. It worked a full workday yesterday. Right. And like Sam Altman comes out and he's like, we're trying to help scientists discover new shit. And like, that is like definitely what it's better at is like going out there and discovering shit. And that's the kind of stuff like products they're building.
That's
Right.
a good
Is like
point.
3 feels like, and there are different times where I need to do those things. Like everything I've learned about Strappy, it's done a great job of like sorting out the version 5 versus the 4 documentation for me, like focusing on what I need to learn and like remembering that I'm using version 5 every single time I bring it up. But like it sucks like at coding in Cursor. Like it just stops too early or it goes off into like different directions. I don't even think it's bad at writing code necessarily. It's just like some of their tooling is really good at least. Like ChatGPT's O3 with web search is one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. I use it like all the time.
You don't even need web search turned on for O3.
I know I found that out too recently. I forget all the time to turn it on.
Yeah.
I think that feature's there in case you change the model, and they just didn't ever hide it in that case.
Right. Okay, so coming back to the app, it looks like it generated the API integration we requested. No API key needed since it's a free API. I didn't realize that. But I guess, yeah, there's no account, right, with pulling it down.
It's a service for all of us, the
Yeah.
people. It's a national weather
Geocoding.
service.
Yeah, eventually wind up cut. Automatic data caching, refreshes hourly. That's cool. Manual refresh. So I did hit refresh. And I did peek at that this is accurate to New York right now. So it looks like it's working.
You need to set up a key.
So if I was going to guess the weather in New York at any given time, I would also guess 60 and rainy.
What were you saying about a key?
Well, you've asked for OpenAI, and so it's going to try to hook that up, but there's no API key. And so how you would do that, if you toggle the database tab,
Because it looks like it's probably just using a fallback response right now based on what was returned.
right? And that's like it's hard coded whatever they put in there, and But if you want to do it, you go to that database tab, and you will see like some settings on that cog, right? And then you see environment variables, and like that one I showed you the other day, like it set you.
Whoa.
That's fake though, so you could update it with that pencil.
This is what you're talking. It just sets fake keys. That's hilarious.
No,
That's
hold
not-
on.
Are they just like real temporary keys that Convix is managing?
No, I think it probably pulled it over from the other deployments we have. That has to be what it is.
Now, because I'm not seeing.
And Eli, I'm just going to say, just because we're on a podcast, unshare your screen before you click that key.
Yeah, no, this.
No, for sure.
I just want to be on the tape that I said that out loud.
Keith is very security minded.
No, that's not even the name. Probably, you could go to your other projects and make sure, but I'm sure that's not what it did. I think that if you look at the code view, the code tab, instead of the preview, and go to look at the ENV, if there is one, yeah, there's one. Boom, and it set you some stuff there, right? So
But do I need to? Like, how do we verify that? Like,
I assumed that, but that a variable is not in that folder. So how
Yeah,
did it?
definitely just unshare your screen and click on that and see if it's a real key.
all right.
Well, I'm gonna also look into our own.
Oh yeah, do we have access to this because it's in our thing?
It looks like a real key. But I guess OpenAI usually starts with right.
Yes, I think it depends. I don't know if it's like they change it all the time.
Yeah, nah, that's not it at all. Yeah, so that thing somehow set you one because it thought you needed one. But ours is called OpenAI API key, not convex OpenAI API key.
Right. That's one of the things that it does, or that AI does, where it's just like no human would ever just be like, the key's empty. I'll just make one up and drop it.
Right. Like,
I would be like, what is wrong with you? You just made up your own UUID, bro.
Well, I'm interested in your actual project. Can you show the screen again and go back to your like? Now that has like the wanderer in me.
you gotta like sign out, sign in. I like, let me see if I can just refresh this. There we go. Yeah, this is like a weird input form. Okay. So I know location's working, right?
Check your code
The
again.
weather's right. You go to the database.
The code, and then I want to look at that. Okay, there is no open AI, so I would assume go to the app TSX. What's probably going to be? I just want to see if he's like hard coded it somewhere.
All right, like weather dot description should probably be an AI call. Suggestion, skip school reason. Can I just jump to that?
You would have a convex folder. You have a weather TS. Go to that weather TS file on the left. Yeah. Scroll up, scroll down. That's the top of the file.
This is the one. I'm just looking. GPT-41 Nano. I mean, it looks like it's actually making that.
Ask it. Look, there it goes. Process.env convex OpenAI. Okay. So click that.
Let's just verify that it's not the fallback. If the fallback's displaying, we know that it's not actually a.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not working. Because, like, what did it do? Give you a free one? Here goes an API key. But I just wondered that since it wrote that in this environment, did it just automatically create those keys?
Yeah, you should just ask it to go through and identify cases of sample data or sample keys and then fix them. See how it does with that.
No, ask it. How did this API key get set for OpenAI?
But yeah, that'll get an answer to that. I was just saying, like, I like to send it on swings where I'm just like, go through, identify these cases, and then make sure I identify the one.
Built in? Hold on. This is
Yeah, it looks like it.
so let me
Yeah, it has like a usage cap on it.
let's read this.
Pre-configured at EMV, automatic available without manual config. That's cool. All right. I mean, but that's what Replit does as well. You just always have to set your key.
Wow,
Tough
man,
environments come with a small allocation of 41 nano and 40 mini tokens. Yeah,
No, that's cool. See, this is what I was talking about, like with
that's
a
dope.
couple of other projects where I said there's like creative ways around this.
wow, that's awesome if it's true.
Yeah, he's just giving you a free tier here because I guess we're a paid account too. So yeah, it actually makes tons of sense that we would get this.
Yeah, but that's very convenient.
Yeah, that's so convenient.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't stop you from working. You know,
All
like
right, so let's tell it to review examples like of sample data, and for that.
OpenAI.
Yeah, I think it'll know. All right, thank you. All right, it's just gonna. Yeah, you're right. I should have been more specific because I was just thinking OpenAI, but I'm like down for it to do that.
Well, that seemed correct, right? You were refreshing, the page stayed the same. They got the same data. You could put a different city, you got different data, refresh it, stay the same.
No, so the city input's broken right now. That's something that I want to fix because it's watch if I just type like D, like I can't. I have to like type one letter.
Eli, I would be like a little bit more aggressive with it and tell it to like remove all dummy data, mock data, say like dummy API responses, like anything that's not real data, and then tell it that this is a production level app or something, and it usually takes it seriously. Because you're having the same issue that I had when we did our weather app, which is that it just loves filling in the dummy data. Because like right there, you can even see right there, it's got temperature 72, partly cloudy. Who told it to do that?
Yeah, like why would I want you to? I
Yeah.
would rather you say, "Hey, there's
Or I would rather have it be empty and the system breaks so I can go fix it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's building like a developer would. Like, I'm going to give you a fallback so that our app is never broken looking.
Yeah.
Well,
But it,
yeah, I guess that makes sense because like I don't know, you would do that I guess to like present it, right? But like I guess while you were working, you would. It's weird because it does so much in one step. But it's like if I was just working for like 5 minutes, it would be you would think I was crazy if I wrote out the description. A pleasant summer day.
It doesn't know that the notion of having a fallback for weather is a strange notion, right?
Yeah, that I think I do think it's weather
that's a good
specifically
point.
because it does not do this for everything.
No, yeah, but I promise you, then somewhere in their system prompting, they're saying, always like have graceful errors, design for fallback states. Like that's just something coming from the system prompt that I feel like gets inconsistently applied, right?
I
Right,
like
I thought so too, but I think it's actually for specifically for the weather data. I tried all the different things, and all of them would have the same issue.
look,
Right.
I like it because it kind of gives you the shape of the data.
Exactly. Yeah, it's at least almost like a draft schema.
No, well, that's why I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying like leave it as null or with a string or an empty string because then I could or honestly like just something that's obviously fake because then I'll know what's going on and like that's been created and needs to be filled with real data. But if you put data that because you can generate it looks genuinely authentic, it could confuse me and I think that thing's working when it's
Right.
not.
It's yeah, because I
It's
I
it's a
think
way
through the
where it's like
front end so much.
yeah, if I
Yeah.
was just making dummy data, like I would just type in a bunch of random letters or lorem ipsum and shit, right?
What
And
else?
so like
Sorry, Keith. I was interested in because I know a little bit about convex. What did it make the API, those open API calls like? What was it? A query? Was it a what was it? Was it an action? Because it matters. All right,
Can I see that?
scroll up right there. It's an action. Okay, so at least it's an action. It got that part right because
yeah,
in context, there's like queries where you find data, mutations where you change them, and then actions are for third parties, but the API can still handle them. And so you would
That's
want
cool. That feels like very easy to follow.
right. That's why I love
That's
convex
interesting.
because convex makes those concepts like okay, and then they have internal queries, internal mutations, and internal actions where we're not exposing that to others. We're doing that in our own system, like similar to how I'm building the search thing for Advisorpedia. I'm using internal actions and things because I'm exposing it as an API. So why would I need to give you like a regular action, like if you're going to use it on a website?
Sorry, I'm
I
just
get
gonna prompt this again.
I can't get over how much this update just like reads like a dev who did nothing yesterday and is updating his product manager.
And here's the
The
difference.
first one is like I added try catch statements, and I was like, that's not that hard.
Bro, there's the difference of Replit and Convex. I can tell you, Replit is made for damn near anything. Convex is specific. Chef is specific to Convex, in that
Yeah.
it follows its conventions. It's hooked to its database. It's its own thing.
Right.
Replit,
Well, I will say the Replit agent it's advertised as for anything. It really only does good with like it's the V. It has like a V React Express combination that it has to use to actually be good, and that's what it goes to by default. And if I've tried to change it up multiple times, and it gets just confused.
that's
Like
probably what this
their
is. It's
agent's
probably
not
Vite.
wrapped up on that.
This is probably Vite, and just Convex. So if you look at the code, you could tell, but it's probably just Vite and Convex because that's how they've been starting the projects ever since Next.js had that mishap with their security. No one's defaulting to them.
Yeah, right. They're on the downslide, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm using 15 right now, and it's pretty good.
I mean, I'm really liking this so far because overall, I really like the free tier and just hooking up the keys. That was actually quite nice because then all I ever have to do is change out a key. And then it feels like Chef takes a little less liberty than Replit, but I think that's because of exactly what you're saying, that like it's even more opinionated than a Replit.
Right.
It's always going to follow some of these explicit patterns, which is nice.
You have 16% of your tokens used. That's something to know too.
Yeah, I mean, that's helpful. I find that like I like how Replit handles usage, but it does get quite expensive. You
Well, that's
know,
why
I'd
I
say
use it as a cheat code, right? At this point, if I liked where it was going and it was kind of working, maybe not all the way, it doesn't matter, but it got me hooked up. I'm not like dead zone. I go to that download code button at the top and I take a
yeah.
cursor, and then, we can really start getting crazy because now I can rewind easier. I can, make a bunch of mistakes easier. And I'm not just sitting here using some kind of limit they have.
What I don't like about this is that it's regenerating a file each time.
I go to cursor. Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like wasted token.
Is it regenerating it though?
Yeah.
At least re-rendering it. It's rewriting
Right.
these because
It
Yeah.
could just
like
be.
there was a whole file here.
I
It
like
could
the
just
way
be
Claude does
restreaming
it.
it.
If you've seen the way Claude does it now, it'll generate a whole page and then go right back to those lines and just hit those lines wherever they're at.
Yeah.
Like GPT Canvas, it feels quite efficient and it feels like to me, I really like seeing it be efficient like that. Like it worries me seeing it regenerate a file because I'm like, what the fuck did it just change?
But for all you know, that could just be slick front end trickery.
Right? It's like what happened with the image gen, right, on ChatGPT, because like they're just re-rendering that CSS transition. It's
Yeah.
not actually it's not actually the image generating in front of you. It's just a
Well,
front end
but
trick.
but
I don't
Replit
know.
shows like. Sorry, you go, Bobby.
No, I was going to say, I don't know about that. I thought that in the beginning because of the way the image was bleeding. But when I would go to those unfinished images, they would be unfinished, So it's like, I don't know what they were doing there. I don't have that.
Yeah, it was weird because I saw LinkedIn articles about people critiquing that, that it felt like dark.
Yeah. But that might be what's going on in a lot of the ones you like. It might be that it generates a diff and then it just hits that. It doesn't show you anything else that it needs to like animate. And it only animates where you think it looks cool.
Yeah. I mean, to me,
All
it's like
right,
I
Douglas
really
County.
like the way Cursor does it and Replit, where it shows you like the diffs. I mean, to me, the get diff is like non-negotiable. That's like the only way that you could tell that nothing's being snuck in. And even then, you might
What's
miss it.
interesting about this is that I don't think it's working proper because now I passed in the location, right? And this is accurate, but then I'm not getting updated data, and also the none of the responses are changing. So how would we instruct it to like make sure that it's doing it dynamically?
I'm telling you, I would eject, go to cursor, and then have your console logs and things, your debugging situation, so that you could kind of see, am I even calling OpenAI right now? Am I even calling the weather API? Instead of sitting,
You see, this is where I think Replit wins, man, because you can do that in Replit and like the AI is aware of the logs and the like what's in the console.
And even the
Like,
database too. It
well,
connects to the
yeah,
Neon.
there is a console here. There may be. I have never
I
tried.
haven't seen. Yeah, I don't. Let's see. Yeah, I
But
don't see one.
I do think this was advertised as getting started, and I would like to give it compliments for doing a pretty kick-ass job of that.
For sure, right? Again, you can just eject and go, yeah.
And that's live in your account now. So, like, even if you left,
Yeah,
it would still be there as a half-ass app.
right. Like we could get to work now, and start doing stuff.
Yeah, and you could pass that to another dev and say, "Hey, here's the starter. Run with it."
Wow, yeah.
And that's why I
Let's
like,
see.
like you get the whole setup correctly without having to go through your convex dashboard wondering what's going on or what do I need to do, because you're going to need like your site URL, you're going to need whatever your your credentials basically to hook up to this database. So it does all that. You just download the code, it's already there.
Yeah, and it's been super awesome starting up projects with all these types of AIs because like the amount of clicking I have to do has gone substantially down.
It's making data. For what reason?
Yeah, that's what I was just checking. I think it actually is working for the weather pool. But
It's
then
making
what
a row in your database. It doesn't look like there's very good data.
I don't think it's pulling from an API. It looks like it's just pulling from this.
Well, it might be random.
no, it
Well,
looks like it's saving what's returned by the API.
It looks like that, but how can we confirm? We have to confirm that. We can't. It could just have made this up.
look on the side there. What are all those little icons? Is any one of them a log? You know what? There is logs. Duh. Convex has logs. There you go. Look, fetch weather. Oh, fetch weather data.
Yeah, could we go into like the controller or whatever? Because it returned the right data, and then
Yeah, so like go to your
let's look at the code for that.
well, there's functions it sets up for you, and you could be there too.
Yeah, right.
Right? And
Where's
go
that?
down there you go, and say go click on the get weather data, and now run that function, the top right. All right, then you'll need to pass in what?
Location.
Is that what you? Is that what the code has? We don't know. Let's see. You need to look for the get weather. What was the function name? Get current weather. There you go. And then so your arguments are location and it's a string. So yeah, put it in a location. Let's see what happens. You're gonna like put quote just location. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Austin, Denver, whatever. And then you're going to what is it? Well, there should be.
Run it. I want to see what it says. I bet you it says can't find location. No, it didn't. Did it update the weather?
It did change the.
It clearly says this is example data. Please click refresh to get real weather there in the description.
Yep. Wow. How dumbasses of us.
No, I think it's more the model. Can we change the model?
No, it's probably not. It's probably like that you're not even connected to it. Like, let's go to that function one time in the data. I mean, in the code.
Right. Well, I think it's sorry, I don't know very clearly. It seems to me as if it's like got a table called weather data, and that get weather data just pulls from that table some weather data.
Yeah. See, that's what it's returning right there.
Yeah.
It's
Okay, so let's say remove all sample data like returns and be sure that
look, you have a server down there running and a terminal, the bottom of your editor.
Well, does this have access to a terminal right now, like as a tool?
Yeah. So now add some console logs. Hell.
wanted to ask it to just go ahead and pull all that out so it's easier to tell what's going on.
Well, we can actually log this function. Now that we see we do have a terminal. I've never sat here and messed with convex that long, or the chef that long.
This is definitely cool to see. I think next time we should try something similar in Replit, and I'd be curious, kind of Bobby, your take on Replit, given your experience with convex. And also, what would be interesting is if we just hook the Replit up to this convex for the weather app, right, and see how Replit plays with convex as well.
Yeah, I would like to do the same in Cursor too. Like, I don't know if we have to do it all together. I think we could have an episode about each. Try to build the same weather app. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still interested in why this was not doing what, but I would look at that AI function and log it and see does it come to the terminal? Because right now we're looking at the weather API. But what about the AI, the open AI call?
But to your point, it's like if we already know that it's behaving weirdly, instead of needing to put the like calories into logging it and like fully debugging it, I might just throw the AI at it a couple more times, asking it to clean itself up, or like prepare this for handoff.
Right. I'm also like 100% positive that if we just gave this, I don't know if you could change the model, but if this was using a more advanced model, it would with the dummy data.
Auto down there. Oh, that's for your prompt, right?
Like I had good success chasing dummy data out with Sonnet 3.7 when it was a thing on that last weather project we did. That's why my stuff was costing so much.
Boom. Try your function again. It's telling you
It's just coming back null.
no. So maybe he lied about the free API.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. I mean, come
It
on.
just looks like the weather service
hold
API
on.
is failing.
He didn't lie about the free part.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean that the key.
That's okay.
Like, where did he get? There's still something you need to connect with, right? Like, find that API. What is this API? He says. Where is the fetch call to this API he's talking about?
Dude, right? This task that we're doing now, I find myself doing a lot, and I don't know how to log that as work.
Yeah. See, your recent weather is going to the database. Oh, fetch weather data right there. There it goes down there. So
Open street map. Oh, that's my location.
weather vibes app. What is that? Geocoded.
That's all right.
API weather gov points. Try to hit those with longitude, latitude. Or just hit that weather gov API just to see the.
Can we do that from the command line or from the chat?
I just want to know if you go there, do they offer it free without an API key?
Oh yeah, I was using it recently. You might need it. I don't think you need an API key for this one. No, I think it's just free.
So grab one of those endpoints and attach it to that last thing you copied.
I see it. Yeah, like alerts.
Yeah.
Or maybe what's one that I might as well just grab anyone. So yeah, /alerts.
Well, don't put it there. I would try to visit it in the browser.
See, sorry.
It's a get. So yeah, it's free. You're muted.
Good thing too, because it was not a funny joke, and I am not going to re-say it.
But yeah, who knows why it's not working?
Wait, do you guys? The AI could figure this problem out. Like
Yeah,
I
but
use it all the time for this.
spinning your wheels on this weird colored app.
Well, I mean that's that's a more existential question that I think should be answered as well. But I just meant like if you could use it to like I don't know if it does it on this seat, but if it has access to a terminal, it'll circulate really well. You could just say like ping each of these, and it'll ping it and show you the results in real time. And like that, I found that to be effective to learn APIs real quick.
One thing I don't like about Chef is that it seems that it either gets stuck a lot or it gives very short answers quickly. And then that's
got to be the model there. That's got to be a 4.1.
But that's why I don't stick around there. I just leave. I take I just get the hookups. I get the beginning. I get the point that it's already has installed auth for me, but using convex auth and not like clerk or anything. And bam, I just run with it.
Yeah, I mean, why does it look like the weather data is pulling, right? Like these are seemingly
because the API connections there, it's just pulling a get. It's like it's got a dummy data database table full of dummy data, and it's like using that interchangeably with I think direct calls to the database. But seriously, if we put this in the Replit or something with a better model, it will actually work better. If this just had a model selector, it would probably work a lot better.
I think it would do.
Are you saying model selector in with regard to like the underlying system, or are you talking about using 4.1
Yeah, so like this
nano
is like no, not at all in the like the underlying system. Are you saying that this is you said we got unlimited 4.1 requests. I guess you're saying that was just for the API. It's not for this.
No, 4.1. This app that
this is okay. So then my assessment is this is reeking of it's not using a strong enough model.
It has to be using Claude 4 under the hood from like the Chef perspective, right?
But just log
I'm sure they're using them.
You would log the return in that get current weather.
Let's see.
Recent weather. All right, no, not that one. Fetch weather, my bad. All right, hold on.
What line should I throw the log in?
Right underneath that end of that fetch there, where there's a semicolon and a parenthesis, a little bit down underneath headers, right there. Console log geo response.
I can't edit while the AI is going. Give it a second.
Matter of fact, hang on. I see const geo response equals fetch. And then a few lines down, I see const geo data is await geo response. So put your log under there later.
Okay, I think that so the issue is like after just reading about Chef a little bit more, it feels more like they are advertising this as like a back end coding tool. And Eli is definitively not a like I would actually argue that Replit is like for designers to do the like a little bit more the opposite. I think that there's like flavors of these things and that you end up getting prompting, and the more similar you are to the people that built the thing, the more likely it is to work.
That's interesting.
Log your geo data. I think that might be the problem because we never asked for like maps.
Maybe should I type in here?
Geo data, yeah. All right. And then go down a few. After the weather response, log that weather response also. All right. Now refresh your app and look in the log, look in the like go to the preview and like reload it, I guess. Yeah. Now look in those, go back to the code tab, look in the terminal, dev server, go to your database tab, maybe. Your database tab at the top and go to the logs again. Boom. Now that might be something. Has no requests remaining. Wow. You've been hitting it.
Did we already hit their key cap if that was real?
I guess so. Never saw any results from it.
All right. Well, maybe this is a good place to stop, I think, for now. And if we can throw a key in next time.
I thought this went really well. We should do this a lot. This was awesome.
You know what this is great for also? If you don't want to do front end, even though it's a reactive system and then it shows react, like that's what Convex is pretty hyped for, is the real time updates and things. But just to generate APIs, like, man, it does all the work. You just say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I want an endpoint for this. I need an API key that you need to set when you hit my endpoint, blah, blah, blah. And now I have an instant database backend API that stores my data. But I like the real time stuff. Don't get me wrong. But you got to have an idea that you're worth going down that road. I'm not going to fight this AI all the time. You know what I mean? Like, we'll just get an idea. We'll get you the scaffold piece by piece, and then we'll build into those pieces. I'll let you do all the coding these days, but the point is, I'm going to watch you code one piece at a time. That way I'm building like little Legos. And then to my mind, we're in the right place. But like just giving it the whole dream of build this weird ass app with these ideas. Here we go. It's like, nah, we don't know what you're doing because you put things in there we didn't ask for. Like, I don't know why you had to use the street maps if that API is free. Maybe there was some sort of way that it had to get locations. I don't know. But it didn't express that to us. It didn't tell us, or we didn't take the time to read. Maybe it did.
I just, I feel like what you're saying, for whatever reason, reminds me of the like sort of philosophy of, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. And it's because you're supposed to listen twice as long as you speak. You have, same thing with like two eyes, right? And I feel like so much more of our time has to be like reading and like in comprehension rather than what typically would have taken hours to make. Like you have to know that if you're going to go the agent route, you're going to spend so much time reading and reviewing. And if you're not in that mindset, it's going to feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, because you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to look at this. It's too much stuff. I can't trust it. I mean, I felt all of those emotions looking at this stuff, you know?
Yeah. I agree, man. I agree that that's the case, that a lot of people want to break into the vibe because it's a coin term, and that, things look, if I could build that, I could make money, I could skip ahead. But in reality, you need to have reasoning built into you as well as it. Like, I talk to the AI like this. Hey, I just did this, and because I did this, I may need that now. But I exist like this at this point. So let us reason. And then, we can kind of build a banter back and forth where it's not one-sided me directing, and it's not one-sided him leading. It's about, if I'm going to use you as a tool that would help me get my job done way faster, then I need to be able to treat you like if you were a junior, right? I need to be able to say, this is what I want from you, and this is how I want it. I can't say, hey, junior, I've got this idea I can't even build. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Because then it's never going to get done. And if it does get done, super questionable, probably a break. When it breaks, you're not going to know how to fix it because you don't even understand the architecture. But if you were to say, here is the plan, or help me make a plan, because it's also smart in that way. Help me come make a plan. It After a bunch of iterating, talking shit back and forth with this LLM, I settle on a plan. I tell it, now you're going to refer to that plan as the plan blah 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 name, and then it'll have steps in that plan, and I'll say, okay, well, let's focus on number one, or 1A, or however the plan got broke down. Let's focus on just that and don't go further than that. All right. So I'm going to need you to do this API route. I'm going to need you to do this component, and I'm going to need you to then import that component into this page. All right. And then it's going to say, oh, that's a lot of work right there, those three steps. So even smarter is, let's get the API route. Let's log that response. Response looks good. Here's the shape. Now I give you that new piece of information that you didn't have and I didn't have. Here's the actual shape, so that you're not going to go, I am assuming you have this as a property. I don't want that. I want you to know the shape. Here's the shape. Bam. Okay. Now let's make the component based on that shape. Cool. Now here's the page you're going to put that component in. But here are the rules for putting it there, because it might think you're going to say replace the page with this component. And so maybe this
And
component.
I've had that happen, right? Where like, yeah, all of a sudden your whole, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So
I,
like
might be a conditional reason you put this component there.
So like my experience, okay, so like the way I've been using it has like very much been like where like I don't trust the planning, if that makes sense, because like I don't believe that most documentation has ever been correct in the history of ever. Like so often I've put together a plan and been like, this is perfect, and then someone's like, what field are you talking about? Or we don't have that endpoint or something, even though the site says you do. And like, especially depending upon what you're doing, if there's like an earlier version, like Next had this problem early on, like, or not early on in my cursor career. Next was going from the page router to the app router. And it was just like confused about that constantly.
Always,
And it was
forever. Yeah.
subtle as hell. And it would work its way into those plans. And there's no way that it's going to pick up on that shit. But like what I've had success with some like doing now, and this is obviously more expensive, is like generating it and like trying to fix it as I go. Right. But I don't move on. Like I'm trying to fix it before I go, right? Because like if I fix it, I can actually learn more that way. And like on some level, I have to not be afraid to throw away. But I'll give an example because I'm willing to explore this not being the best way of doing things, right? Where it's like, okay, I see that it's calling the Strappy4 API, like, and it's using the Strappy4 formatting, and it's like, okay, that's wrong. But how did it even find out about that? I don't know, right? I go to their docs. Their docs are just wrong on the site. And I was like, okay, that's how it did. Right. But then I figured out what it was. I found the right Strappy 5 docs. I like linked it back. And then like it went through and fixed all of them. And like as it was doing that, I sat and read the docs for that feature. Right. And so I've learned how this is working now in that moment. Although that wasn't necessarily the most effective use of like if that was a real person, it would definitively not be the best use of their time. But it's an AI. It's kind of
But
the
I
question.
like the parallelization there, where like if you can run it all on a task and you can build that familiarity with the docs, then by the time it's generated, you can then be more informed than just like riding the wave of whatever it's made. You always have to stay in a posture of like, I used to say a lot, interrogating the code. Yeah, you've got to be, and you were even saying earlier, like Eli, you got to be more aggressive with it. Like you have to
You gotta
really stay
man
on
into
top
that
of
thing.
it. Yeah, you got to stay on top of it, right? Like it, but I also wonder, I don't know, it makes me think about like the next person we bring on the team. Like I want somebody that just loves reviewing code. Like I want somebody that's just really excited. I don't know if that person exists,
Yeah, good
but
luck.
like, I don't know. Like if that's in the job
I mean,
description, is
I'm
like,
open to that. I would describe my ideal person like that as someone who's read a lot of code and not necessarily happy about it, right? But like we've done this. This is what we're doing because like I bitched my whole career about how much code I had to read as opposed to write, and now I'm just like, good thing I had to read all that shitty code. I find it's immensely helpful, and they didn't know that in college. And like so much of a computer science degree is just like, what's wrong with this? Geez, man, I don't know why the fuck did you write it right. Like I'm on a test. Like what the? This is a waste of my time. I used to think, but now it's like, oh shit, I'm doing that for this AI.
The
yeah,
approach you mentioned though, Keith, is kind of to me an awkward approach, but if it works for you, then shit, why not use it? Because like everyone's gonna have a different style. The only reason
yeah, but
I come with the way I do it is because in the end, I've noticed that if you don't really know what you're working on or you try to work with it like that, it don't know what it's working on later, right? And it doesn't remember that it already built a solution. And if you're not following along,
Right. Well,
you don't know that solution either, and then you get doubled up solutions.
right.
I want to
Well,
say something
what I'm
really quick.
describing has like a. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just want to share, like, really quickly on Bobby's point that everyone's going to have their own style. I think there's certain environments where that's a good thing, that people can be individuals and like express themselves creatively. Like, I'm all for individuality, right? But, we also have to balance that whenever we're on these small tiger teams of 2 to 3 people, it's ever more important to also know what play we're running, what we're trying to achieve, right? Like there's a team aspect to it as well. And I wonder if, you know, there's a difference between like the spread offense in football and the wing T running, triple option, right? So if you have like a whole different scheme, I think that's where the problems emerge of like people using AI differently, like our work doesn't mesh. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah, I mean,
we
because
need we need a playbook.
I've been thinking about it in those terms a lot. So like, we need a playbook, but it's just like, where do we want to draw the playbook? Because what I just described, like Bobby's probably got hesitancy because he's like, oh, it probably creates a bunch of files, and it does when I'm in the middle of it. But the standard still needs to be there that we're producing working code, right? Also, I think I've got that scripts issues fixed. By the way, it's now writing them in its own file that's in git ignore, and I think that's the solution because it is annoying that it writes its own scripts to solve things, but it's cool. So what I have it do is I have it write test scripts like as we go through it. That's like test this like run this API, and then it runs it in the terminal or in the terminal inside of the cursor like chat log. It looks at the response, it sees it's wrong, it goes back in the code and it tries to fix it. But what I have to do is I have to know enough. So in this case, I don't know about the Strappy API. I can't not know about JavaScript, not know about the APIs, not know exactly how I want to set up this architecture. Right? I have to just literally be wondering, how does this endpoint work for what I described to make sense? I can't just be like, how can I build an app? There's no way. That's too broad. Right? So it's kind of like, if I could create this is my strategy, is like, if I could get this thing into little loops where like as it iterates through the problems it finds, I can observe if it's actually making meaningful progress that works. But going back to your point about everybody, that doesn't work for every problem. Like I'm very much thinking about it from like an integrating these multiple systems standpoints, where I'm like, okay, I want to just integrate this, make sure these all ping. Like a designer doesn't come in like that. Like they're trying to meet user needs, or they're trying to meet like adding another screen is not so bad. Like they really can't do that kind of like iterative loop unless the person was talking to them. So like they're a lot more reliant on their inner creativity and actually talking to the AI so it knows what they're trying to do.
I
Right.
don't know though. I mean, the looping strategy is really interesting because if you stick it on the right problem and it can recursively kind of fix issues that emerge unmoderated for 4 hours, right? Like let's say, and that 4 hours of iteration on a UX pattern or interaction model, I think with the right prompting, it could just kind of hammer away at it, right? But it's not going to know as definite like where to stop because that's a harder boundary to
No, and
distinguish.
that's exactly what I've discovered. So this isn't fast. So this is not something that's in my daily workflow, but it is a fun thing I did. Although the AI, when I loaded my cursor prompts into the O3 Eli I was telling you yesterday, this is the thing that it told me was a waste of company time when it looked at my conversations. But I'm going to tell you what I tried. Is I had it like run with Puppeteer, right? So Puppeteer is an MCP integration. I tried with browser-based, but I couldn't do this because it doesn't have local. So like you could have browser-based host your actual like web scrapers basically, and then you could run this as like an actual process if you wanted. But it didn't work with ngrok. That was the whole thing. But like localhost, or like when I run it on localhost, right, it would just open up like literally a Chrome tab. Chrome opens up from cursor, right? It navigates to the page. It takes a fucking screenshot and it comes back. And like I try to get it in that loop. And the issue is that I can have deterministic like the problem that I just did with the data mapping is the best case like scenario where the loop makes sense. Because like there is a very definitive, like it has to map this database to this database 1-to-1 on each field, right? And it can go through and say like, oh, it's not mapped here, it's not mapped here, like 10% mapped, like exciting, right? But like with the UI, that's harder because it really just ends up being, what do you want? Like people struggle writing the definition of done for any ticket they've ever written, let alone like that's kind of what it is. So that when I do that, at that point, it's like the reason I wouldn't recommend using it is it's opening up Puppeteer way slower than you could go flick through it and take a screenshot. But if it was doing that all day for us at a
Yeah,
low
exactly.
cost,
If
that's a
you
different
ran like a
conversation.
overnight, or like in situations where you want it to be unmoderated, but then yeah, we've
But I
already seen our costs balloon, so like
something
let's not go too far down that route, you know.
no, but the next model drop in costs, like so that's like then we're there, right? So that's kind of where my
It's
head's at.
coming. Yeah.
But yeah, there's just like so much like different. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever works, man. Like to me, it just makes sense. Like old school web patterns, I've had more success with them than trying, because in the beginning I didn't know where to go either. I was like, let's do it and get it out the way. And then I started building myself into more corners than I could, then there was walls in the room. And I was like, whoa, now I don't know what's going on. And now I don't know where I'm at. And when things are broken, even though I'm a developer, I feel like I'm not. And I'm like, I don't know what's broken. I don't know where to fix it. And that makes me feel bad because I don't know, but you shouldn't know where, everything's at in someone else's code. But the point is, like, it's your code. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
Right. Well, the way I've been thinking about it, man, is like to be an architect, you don't have to know everything about bricks. but you should be able to look at a brick and say, this isn't going to fall when I
Yeah,
put it on
well,
my house.
also,
Right?
you got to know
Like,
what's under the
that's not
brick.
that crazy.
You got to know like what ties the brick to the other brick. You know,
No, exactly. Like, and that's the part where I think the AI is like that's the part where I think if you think of it as at that level as like I'm trying to tie it apart and not worry about the brick, like you should probably ask before you start, like, hey, what are bricks made out of? But you're not going to ask that every time, right?
like,
You're just going to verify that it does what it's supposed to do.
bro, I could have a conversation for a long time about a certain task, and then know because I've talked to them for so long now. You know, I've been in AI land for forever. I could speak their language. That I know I need to go ahead and reshare the same files I've already shared before, even though we've been talking about them this whole time. I need you to see the schema one more time, you know, because we're about to start building on that again. And I don't need you to go, if this one function exists. No, you know what functions exist.
It's there, yeah.
Let me show you this again. Let me show you this again. Let me show you this again. Here's a task. Just do that one thing. And then when I have success, I'm like, ooh, that moves so much faster than I could have ever done it because I could type that function out and you could have typed out the function, the component, and the import, you know? And it's like, that's the reason I opt into using it now. But I opt into using it in the same patterns that like I was taught in the beginning. Not that I was always using those patterns as a developer. I do any kind of hacky, weird, you know, get it done movement. Like, you know, I've always cut corners in development because I'm not saying cut corners on clients, but I mean in time, in functions, and building other things that would do things for me. And so, you know, that's
Yeah,
the
exactly. Right. Like it's just like automating shit has been like the goal. Like, I mean, I'm happy to show up to work every day and do the same thing as hard as I can, but I'm going to show up anyway. I might as well automate this thing so I can do something else tomorrow.
Right.
what I'm saying is like going
You
back
know?
to the fundamentals, right? Like with Mateus's pattern, how he uses Express. He has a routes, he has a models, he has a controller. Those are fundamentals to me in web development. And that, oh, if I get you to build in that fundamental, then it'll always make sense to my mind. It'll always be one task at a time, and it'll be done quickly. And so that's the reason I went back to that.
That
This is why
that makes me think of the scheme point, right? In the football analogy, like I feel like Matthias introduced a scheme for how our, team was gonna run. And even me as like a novice can introduce a new AI feature because we have a very clear scheme or strategy that we're able to adhere to. So even if I prompt differently, right, and I'm tackling something from a different perspective, I know how to build an AI call inside of our production application. When historically I would have stopped much more surface level in my sort of proposals or my ideas. And so like I think about these new projects, like how do we set the scheme? How do we set the playbook? Right. And that's why like, I go to storytelling, I go to like user stories, trying to make prototypes, because like it's always uncertain, right? If like we all like go off to the races, we just like collide. And it's more likely to happen with these AIs.
But like, say you wanted to transfer how Mateus has this conventional express pattern that is not specific to Mateus, but to express. And so that is an easy concept once you get to know it. You know, you have an API client on the front end so that it's not messy with a bunch of fetch calls. You know that you have a route that's going to match that on the back end. You know that there's a controller that the route uses, and you know that maybe the controller has a model. Maybe it doesn't because maybe it doesn't interact with the database. That's an easy pattern. And so if you were to transfer that same thing to convex, right? Because you don't know that technology, but we now use it, you would start with their fundamentals, right? Their queries, mutations, actions, when to use them, when to use internal versions of those same things, right? And that's kind of common sense, but it doesn't really hit when you first start to learn because you're like, what do you mean? But an internal thing is like, I'm not going to put it on a website. I'm going to actually only use this version of a query behind the scenes. I'm going to like let an AI kind of use this thing, or I'm going to only do this for a calculation on the server somewhere. A person's never going to touch this. A developer doesn't need to go on the front end, doesn't need to worry about this version. So I would label it internal dot blah, blah, blah. All right. And so that would be where you would start that scheme. Like you would just get flexible with the technology itself. There's no shortcuts around that part. If you don't know the technology, then you're going to be blindly led. But you're not blindly led right now because you've learned the pattern of Mateus's framework he brought. And so it's like you're confident in your movement. You're not like, oh, this is magic, I don't know how it works. You're like, I know that it's going to take this, and that, maybe that, right? But
yeah, exactly. There's a difference between exploring and like going on an actual mission to do something. Like, I don't know, like working is like when I'm working, it's like I should know what this is doing, right? And I might not know the specific thing that's wrong right now, but like I should be able to tell you, like, this is a express route. This is how Express handles middleware. Like, you shouldn't be doing anything outside the bounds of that unless you're just playing around with AI, which is less of a work thing in my mind, right? Like, if I wanted to go try to build some cool new thing, it's amazing how far I can get, but that's what vibe coding is to me, as opposed to trying to build something inside of the system that exists,
yep, I've
right?
tried some vibe coding with that idea that I was telling you about, mixing my favorite comedy with my favorite playlist and having it go up or down when the comedian's talking. And I've tried it 4 or 5 times vibe coding because I don't know what it would take. And now that I vibe coded it 4 or 5 times, I saw all the problems that I came up against. And so, yes, in there is a lesson. If you're adamantly, continuously trying to do the same thing, there's insanity mixed in with that idea. But the point is, if you see it fail so many times and you do have developer knowledge or even common sense, then you're going to say, oh, no, if I'm going to really do this, I know it can't be done like this and it can't be done like this, or this. So now, why it can't be done like that? Well, because I've made notes about, for one, this thing can't happen. For two, you have to have your transcripts allow the app, for the been permissioned to the application that you're building, because that's how YouTube works or whatever. And so you're like, oh, well, that's a stone wall there. And then you look out there and you find apps that do weird shit with YouTube you wish you could do. And so then now okay, I just went about it wrong. But that gets you no closer to the goal, really. But it does give you a lesson in like failures. And I always like failures because I can say, hey, I did learn something. Like, even if I were to get sentenced now and go to prison, I would say I learned that this, I don't need to do this anymore.
Right.
Failure, but I still learned, right?
Well, I will say too, man, especially with like my approach to this like vibe coding, and the vibe part of it for me is very much like I almost have a fear. Like, I don't have a fear of failure, but I almost just like know that I've ended up in so many holes trying to launch these things, like, and having these apps come out, that it's just like I almost feel like, how many of these holes can I jump down right now and see what's going on, right? Because if it takes 5 minutes to be like, if I tried out this schema and this schema, and it's not here yet, I'm not doing this yet. But if you think about the natural progression of where AI goes, right, it could build out 3 different API schemas. I'm fucking with a postman for each of them, seeing which one I like more, right? And like that, I don't know, that changes a lot. But you could still start at the wrong place. Like, if you don't think of it as like a primitive first and build up to where all of that is, then it's not going to all integrate together well. And you're going to sit there going, I don't know that's wrong. But it's like you put in like 10 different things. And so you don't know.
Well, also you will come up with other solutions, right? So like, here's a case in point. I'm building the Advisorpedia pieces of Strappy, right, for components so that they have flexibility in displaying what they want. In the beginning, when I first set up my first template for channels, I put this like thing called an article list, right? And so, it works, it went, blah, blah, blah. But today I was working with the AI and I was trying to do a homepage template. Well, the homepage, it could take in many lists, right? Featured, latest, trending. And so it proposed a different way for that kind of article list. And as I was thinking, I was like, wow, this is a better solution than the one I had before for the channels list. And so there's always lessons if you pay attention, right? If you like, oh, really read it and pay attention, then you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to go back. This is
What's
human.
that? Yeah, what's that term for like using something for a different purpose than was intended? There's a word for that. Like the concept of there's like this idea of like exaptive innovation, right? So exaptive innovation is where, like, for example, the microwave is like a super common example, right? Because it was invented for radios and communications. And the sort of
Repurposed.
the old wives' tale of it is that a guy set a candy bar on it while they were doing radio communications, and he came back and the candy bar was melted. And that's what really spawned the use of microwave as like the way it appears in our kitchens today. And I think about that example you just shared where like the AI had something like super novel to say about like this articles list. and you're like, wait, but maybe it's not right here, but I like this thinking and I want to take it to this other portion of the product. I find myself doing that all the time when I'm generating front end code. It'll like make a cool component that like works, it's got an interesting relationship to the UX, but I'm going to move it to a different part of the experience. Like I think about that all the time in Replit. It's like, hey, grab this chunk,
Bro,
move
that's
it
how deep
here.
research was born. The deep research was like, I saw a guy on YouTube. He made deep research, but he did, traditional web search and blah, blah, blah. And I went to go check out his repo and I started reading it and I was like, this is it? You know what I mean? And I was like, hang on, I can actually grok this, man. I can actually make this make sense to my mind. And I was like, with our vector retriever, we could swap the concept out of the web search, replace it, keep that. And so it was like, I find like this thing is helpful in many ways, but it also is it's just not, I'm glad that it's not there, right? I'm glad that it's not omniscient and it doesn't know everything and it doesn't know how to make everything perfect because then
No, the mistakes are where, yeah, the mistakes are where you can get really creative.
well, I mean, then
But
I would be out of a job as well, right? And so I'm happy that
No, man. Well, there'll always be work to do, dude. Like if it gets
yeah,
that right, we're just gonna do something else. There's there's
I
always shit
haven't
to do.
found anybody. I haven't found any indication yet that people are going to want to stop having shit get done.
Yeah, yeah. Like
well,
But
you
maybe.
still need a block captain, right? You would still need a person
Uh-huh.
who would sit there and go, "This is what we want, how we want," because the AI
Yeah.
is not alive. It
So
doesn't wake up and go, "Let's do
yeah.
that job."
Eli, this just popped in my head. I thought about this in the shower this morning, and I mean this deeply. I know you're probably thinking about football, and so was I. I think it much more deeply resembles soccer tactics than it does football in every way possible. I could talk about that for an hour, but like it's like each individual person has their own matchup. And if you think about football, oftentimes the goal is to run the play, and that is like never the goal in soccer, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to be a lot more responsive to what people is, and then you can divide people into lines, right? Like you got your back line, your front line, you got this line. You might have different lines based on the formation. Like
Yeah, that's interesting because maybe the football thinking comes from like I really want to tightly scope each AI to like a
you want it to be
job.
you want it to be linear, and it might not be, but the goal could
Yeah,
be
yeah,
very
yeah.
clear.
That's interesting. Well, maybe that's what we can talk about next time. But Teddy is asking for a walk very aggressively right now. So maybe this is a good chance to like let's pause here. I think this has been super fun, guys. We just gotta I'll keep throwing times on to do this. And I totally forgot to add Matthias and I sent him a message letting him know we did it and that we like I want to include him next time if he's down. So
Yeah,
maybe
where
we can
was
do this
he?
like
Where's he during my soccer tactics comparison?
I think we should highlight one of these things, right? Where you ask for magic, see what happens, and then you take a real approach and use AI and see what happens. And then who gets the job better, not faster, because faster don't mean shit, right?
yeah, because either way, it's happening faster.
Well,
Like
I just wanted to
it's
highlight
already happening faster.
I wanted to highlight as a company that we move good with AI because we use it in a way that's like that we understand that we're not gonna just let it do you anything.
Yeah, I was the screen share today, right? Like I'm not contributing code in our projects at the level that you guys are. So I think, I want to see Keith's looping shit, and like how it, can self-correct almost or like,
Yeah,
right?
it's not
That's
that.
interesting. And then like
So
Bobby, we can like screen share from your side. So I want to definitely, do other formats of it.
cool. The only thing I'm gonna say is I'm just gonna share a message out on the channel with all y'all. With y'all, I have a folder of all the prompts I use to build this importer thing I'm doing. I'm not sending that to y'all as like, hey, look at my prompts, do what I did. It would be cool if you guys wanted to throw that into O3 and have it talk shit about me and give me feedback. That's fine too.
Keith doesn't know
I
shit.
want it to be open in that
I
way.
want to see
Whatever
mine
Bobby's
too. I
saying, I
want to
didn't mean
grab that folder. Yeah, for sure.
I
For
wish we
sure.
could like keep our conversations because I actually would like to use them over, right? Like once they're kind of like lost in the ether of it, I know they get saved, bro, but you don't remember them.
No, but that's why memory is such a big push. Like OpenAI is in push into memory. Cursor memory's got to be coming. You know what I mean?
Just to have those conversations, bro. I've had some really good conversations where it's like, yeah, I might come across as I'm a dumbass, but it's a dumbass looking to get smarter. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't get this. Show me this, and it will, or it will at least shape me to a direction where I can go shape myself.